The Legend of Jigong Chapter 45.
So I want you to picture a really high-stakes courtroom drama. But instead of, corporate fraud or a smoking gun, the whole thing kicks off with a wealthy scholar hiring a servant to strip entirely naked and hide under his own widowed sister-in-law's bed.
Which, I mean, just sounds like a bizarre prank, right? Or like the start of some crude comedy.
Exactly. But in the really rigid, hyper-structured society of Imperial China, this wasn't a prank at all.
No, not even close.
It was actually this incredibly sophisticated, meticulously weaponized financial crime, like a calculated plot to legally steal an entire inheritance.
And they do it by exploiting the culture's absolute, obsession with female chastity.
Right. And the crazy thing is the only thing standing in the way of this perfect crime was this totally chaotic, wine-drinking, rule-breaking monk.
A monk who essentially realized that when the legal system is actually built to protect the corrupt, you can't just follow the rules. You have to, hack the system from the inside out.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking you right into the heart of historical China. We're unpacking this staggering sequence from Chapter 45 of the complete biography of Jigong.
Which is a huge cornerstone of Chinese literature and folklore, by the way.
Yeah, it is. And our mission today is to decode this one brilliant legal bluff. We want to understand how historical justice worked, how incredibly fragile reputation was, and how these eccentric disruptors operate when the rules themselves are used as weapons.
It's such a great chapter. I mean, Chapter 45 is basically a masterclass in reading the invisible power dynamics of that society.
It really is. So to even appreciate the sheer audacity of what happens in this courtroom, we have to talk about the guy orchestrating it all. Jigong.
Right, Jigong. And he is not your typical serene, meditating monk. He occupies this really fascinating space in Buddhist folklore.
Because he basically violates every single monastic rule, right?
Oh, flagrantly. I mean, he eats meat, he drinks wine, and he doesn't even try to hide it. He wanders the streets in these filthy, tattered robes.
Just looking like a complete madman to anyone walking by.
Exactly. To an uninitiated observer, he looks totally unhinged, just rambling and acting crazy. But that chaotic exterior is a mask.
A mask for what, exactly?
Well, this profound divine foresight. He has this almost terrifying, laser-focused sense of justice. He is the classic archetype of the holy fool.
Oh, I love that archetype.
Mm-hmm.
The outsider who sees things everyone else misses.
Yeah, because he's so detached from all those societal norms, he can see the matrix of corruption. Everyday citizens are just blinded by what they think is proper behavior.
He's the ultimate rogue variable. The system just cannot account for him because he refuses to operate on their frequency.
Totally. And he just drops into this story right in the middle of things. He instantly creates this paradox that forces the local authorities into a massive corner.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's actually set the stage in Magistrate Lu's courtroom. So we've got a peasant servant named Tang Er standing there.
And he is fiercely claiming that he owns this standard cloth bundle.
Right. And Magistrate Lu, being a smart guy, uses a pretty basic verification tactic. He's like, okay, tell me exactly what's inside it.
And Tang Er just rattles off this hyper-specific inventory without even blinking.
It's crazy specific. He says 2 bolts of floral pink silk, 2 bolts of Songjiang white cloth, 2 strings of cash tied with red string.
A very specific red string, yeah.
Exactly. Plus a piece of red silk, old clothes, old shoes, and then this huge one, 200 taels of fine silver.
Which instantly elevates the whole dispute. We are talking about an agrarian economy here.
Right. So 200 taels is a lot of money.
It is a staggering amount of wealth for a servant to just be carrying around. It would be like a modern-day courier casually walking down the street in the duffel bag stuffed with $250,000.
Getting right next to his dirty gym clothes.
Exactly. And the magistrate knows this is suspicious immediately. But the real complication happens before Tang Er even opens his mouth.
Because Jigong, our crazy monk, was already there.
Right. Jigong had preemptively handed the magistrate a written manifest.
And on that piece of paper is the exact same wildly specific inventory, down to the red string.
Which creates an impossible situation for a pre-modern legal system.
Right, because you don't have security cameras or fingerprinting or digital bank records.
Nothing. You just have 2 individuals claiming identical knowledge of what is inside a sealed bag. One wrote it down, the other has it memorized.
So how does the magistrate even begin to figure out who is lying?
He has to find the microscopic fault line in Tang Er's story. And he does it by zeroing in on the silver.
Oh, this part is so good. He asks Tang Er a question that completely separates just knowing about something from actually owning it.
Yeah, he asks how many individual pieces make up those 200 taels.
And Tang Er just freezes. He has no idea.
What's fascinating here is how this preys on the physical reality of currency back then. Silver wasn't universally minted into perfectly identical coins like we have today.
Right, it was ingots or sissis, wasn't it?
Exactly, and people would frequently chop them up, chip them, or shave them down just to make exact change by weight.
So 200 taels of silver wouldn't just be 20 neat 10-tail bars stacked up.
No, it would be this chaotic, fragmented collection of totally different shapes and sizes.
So if you're just a courier who got handed a bag and told, hey, there's 200 taels in here, you just memorize that headline number.
Right. But if you are the actual owner, the person who accumulated that wealth over time, you weighed it, you stored it, you have a very tactile, intimate knowledge of exactly how many pieces are in there.
The magistrate is basically testing him. Do you just have superficial data or do you have lived data?
And Tang completely fails. He tries to bluff, saying he only knows the total weight, but the magistrate just orders the bundle to be unsealed right there on the courtroom floor.
They dump it out, count the silver, and it totals exactly 37 distinct pieces. Tang Er is totally busted.
He is, but what happens next is what really escalates things.
Yeah, the magistrate doesn't just hit him with perjury or petty theft. He weaponizes this discovery to cause a total psychological collapse.
He looks at this terrified servant and accuses him of capital murder.
It's wild. He just suddenly asserts, you must have slaughtered the monk's servant to get this bag.
And going from misdemeanor theft to capital murder is a huge, calculated shock tactic. It's deeply rooted in how the bureaucracy of historical Chinese justice actually worked.
Because magistrates were under a ton of pressure to resolve cases.
Massive pressure. And they needed definitive resolutions. Confessions were basically the absolute gold standard of evidence.
And the King legal code was pretty brutal about murder.
Extremely brutal. The penalty was execution, often carried out in these highly publicized, horrific ways to terrorize the public into obeying the law.
So by threatening Tang Er with a murder charge, the magistrate just totally overrides any mental defenses the guy had about the stealing part.
Exactly. It's the historical equivalent of something like the Reed technique.
Right, or like a classic Columbo episode where the detective throws out this apocalyptic accusation to make the real crime seem like a safe option.
You scramble the suspect's brains so much that they actually want to confess to a massive conspiracy just to save their own life.
And it works perfectly. Tang Er is desperate to avoid being executed for a murder he knows he didn't commit, so he just violently pivots.
He starts screaming that he didn't kill anyone, and in the process, he blurts out the actual conspiracy.
He confesses that his master, the super elite scholar Li Wenfang, actually gave him the bundle as a bribe.
And you can almost feel the temperature in the courtroom change right at that moment.
Oh, totally. Because Tang Er's confession just yanks the curtain back. Suddenly we're not dealing with a peasant stealing laundry anymore.
No, we are dealing with high society elite corruption. Tang Er basically forces the magistrate to cross a really dangerous social boundary.
Because Li Wenfeng isn't just a guy with a lot of money. He has the rank of Xiolian, right?
Yes, he is a provincial graduate, and in the imperial examination system, which was the absolute bedrock of power and social mobility, that rank meant everything.
He's basically wearing a legal force field.
Exactly. So when the magistrate's guards drag Li Wenfeng into the courtroom, he doesn't cower at all.
He just looks around, sees his sweaty servant, sees this crazy beggar monk, and he just knows his social armor is impenetrable.
He literally looks the magistrate in the eye and issues this flat, arrogant denial. He assumes his word automatically overrides anything a peasant says.
And he's kind of right to assume that, legally speaking, isn't he?
Structurally, yes. The law actually dictated that a scholar of his rank could not be subjected to physical interrogations or judicial torments.
Unless there was a loophole, right?
Unless the magistrate formally petitioned the higher provincial authorities to strip the scholar of his title first.
Which sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
A total nightmare. It was designed specifically to protect the wealthy gentry from local magistrates. Wenfeng is basically daring the magistrate to take that political risk.
He's like, go ahead, ruin your career, trying to prove a peasant right.
Mm-hmm.
But the magistrate is so smart. He outmaneuvers him by redirecting all of his fury.
Right. If he can't legally break the scholar's body, he decides to threaten to permanently break the servant's body.
And he brings up the Jaya gun. Just mentioning it completely shatters Tang Er. We really should explain what this device is because it drives the whole confession.
It is truly horrific. The Jigen was this instrument of judicial torture that consisted of these heavy wooden boards.
And they would put them around your legs.
Yeah, around the ankles and lower legs, and the court runners would use ropes to systematically tighten these boards together.
Oh man, just applying all that pressure.
Agonizing, bone-crushing pressure. And the goal wasn't just to cause pain. The Jigen frequently left people permanently, irreversibly crippled.
Which, in an agrarian society where your physical labor is your only way to survive, that's a death sentence.
It's permanent social and economic obliteration. Tanger realizes that if he protects his master, he will literally never walk again.
So faced with that visceral horror, Tanger just completely breaks down and unravels the entire plot.
And this is where the story shifts from being a clever procedural to a really dark exploration of systemic misogyny and financial predation.
Right, because Tang Er details how Li Wenfeng wanted to steal the estate of his recently deceased younger brother.
And to do that, he orchestrated this theatrical character assassination against the surviving widow, Zhao Shi.
It's so twisted. Tang Er says he was bribed to hide completely naked under the widow's bed during a crowded birthday celebration.
And then, on a prearranged signal, he was supposed to run out of the room right in front of all the local elites.
Just to visually frame her in a scandalous affair. But let's pause here. Why go to all this bizarre trouble just to ruin her reputation?
It seems extreme, right?
Like, why not just forge a will or legally challenge her claim?
Because of the profound economic weight of female chastity in this specific cultural context, we're dealing with Neo-Confucian ideology.
And that elevated widow chastity to like a legal requirement, didn't it?
Yes, it went from being a personal moral choice to an institutionally mandated requirement for property rights.
So a chaste widow wasn't just grieving. She was actually the legally recognized proxy for her dead husband's wealth.
Exactly. She held it in trust for her male children.
Which totally reframes what Li Wenfeng was doing. He wasn't attacking the vault. He was attacking the vault's operating system.
That's a perfect way to put it. If he tries to forge a will, he goes up against the state, which actively protected chaste widows.
But her chastity was the cryptographic key to those assets. If he corrupts the key, the assets default back to the eldest male of the family.
Which is Li Wenfeng. The brilliance and really the cruelty of his crime is how efficient it is. He knows the state's obsession with female purity is a double-edged sword.
Right, because a woman's reputation in that framework is so incredibly brittle.
It didn't even require a trial or hard evidence to destroy her, just the visual implication of impropriety.
Like a naked guy running out of her bedroom.
Exactly. That is enough to trigger this automatic, catastrophic, social excommunication.
Because the local community is so driven by the pressure to maintain collective face, or mianzi, that they'll just police it themselves.
They would exile her, strip her of her child, and just hand the estate over to Li Wenfeng without him ever having to argue his case in a courtroom.
He literally used the rigidity of his own society's moral code as a weapon.
It is social engineering at its absolute darkest, and Magistrate Liu recognizes just how malicious this is.
He does. And the sentencing phase is just incredible. It's not just about punishing Li Wenfeng. It's about systematically dismantling the social currency he tried to exploit.
The magistrate just unloads on Li Wenfeng. He strips away all of his intellectual superiority.
He publicly humiliates him, right? He accuses him of violating every core tenet of Confucian philosophy.
Yes, he calls him unfilial, disloyal, and lacking in basic brotherhood.
And then he gives Li Wenfeng a choice. He can either go through the long process of being stripped of his rank and beaten, or he can accept an immediate, massive penalty.
And of course, Li Wenfeng chooses the penalty, which really highlights how deeply his entire identity is tied to his social standing.
He would rather pay anything than lose that rank. But the magistrate's penalty is financially and socially apocalyptic.
It really is. He forces Li Wenfeng to sign a sweet bond.
What exactly is a sweet bond?
It's a legally binding guarantee. Like, Wenfeng basically has to guarantee the widow's physical safety and financial security going forward.
Wow. So he transforms the widow from a victim into Li Wenfeng's biggest liability. If anything happens to her, it's on him.
Exactly. It neutralizes any future attempts on her life or her property.
But the financial penalty is where the magistrate really delivers karmic justice. He fines Li Wenfeng 50,000 taels of silver.
50,000. I mean, if 200 taels was a huge bribe, 50,000 is a generational fortune.
It's designed to utterly bankrupt him. And the destination of that money is the real poetic masterstroke here.
Yeah, where does the money go?
It is exclusively earmarked to build a Paifang, which is a monumental chastity memorial arch, dedicated to the exact same widow he just tried to destroy.
Which is incredible. The Paifang is the ultimate architectural manifestation of Mianzi.
Because they're huge, right? Like big stone archways over main streets.
Massive stone archways. They were basically the highest form of state-sanctioned propaganda to honor a family's moral purity.
So by forcing Li Wenfeng to finance this monument, the magistrate is executing a permanent physical reversal of face.
He weaponized a rumor to strip her of her dignity, and now he has to weaponize his own wealth to etch her virtue into stone.
Cementing his own humiliation in the public record forever. The magistrate even makes Li Wenfeng and all the local elites physically escort the widow back to her estate in a grand procession.
Effectively acting as her servants in front of the whole town.
And just to really drive the point home, after bankrupting him and humiliating him, the magistrate orders a clerk to strike Li Wenfeng 100 times with a wooden ruler.
Which, it lacks the crippling brutality of the Jiagan, but it serves a very specific purpose.
It publicly infantilizes him.
Exactly. It strips away the very last remnants of his elite dignity.
But the magistrate doesn't stop there. He goes after systemic accountability. And the punishment for the widow's father, Zhao Haiming, is so revealing about this face-based society.
Right, because the father didn't actually plan the plot, but he is still heavily fined. He has to pay 3,000 taels to build a secondary chastity shrine.
I found this verdict really fascinating. Why punish the victim's dad?
Because his crime was complicity driven by absolute cowardice. When the scandal first broke, he didn't defend his daughter's character, he just capitulated to the social pressure.
The story even implies he nearly forced his own daughter to commit suicide just to preserve the family's honor.
Which proves that avoiding public disgrace was literally more important to him than his own child's life.
That is so toxic. So his punishment is a financial reconciliation for his moral failure.
And he's so desperate to overpay the fine, right? He volunteers 6,000 taels instead of 3,000.
Which just shows that reputation is a completely tradable commodity for him.
He was willing to purchase social standing with his daughter's blood, so the magistrate forces him to purchase her rehabilitation with his own silver.
And what about the servant, Tang Er? He gets the raw physical wrath of the system.
He gets 80 heavy blows, and then a 3-month sentence wearing a 25-caddy wooden collar, which is known as a kang.
And then permanent exile. But wait, what is a kang? Why is it so brutal?
It's particularly brutal because it's this heavy wooden board locked around your neck, and it physically prevents you from reaching your own mouth.
Oh my God, so you can't feed yourself.
Right. You are paraded in public and forced to beg for food from the very community you wronged. It's intense physical strain combined with inescapable social ostracization.
Okay, so the verdicts are dispensed, the ecosystem is balanced, the villains are punished, the drama seems resolved.
But we arrive at this massive, glaring structural problem.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this totally subverts the traditional detective narrative.
Right, because think about it. The entire investigation, the confessions, all of it hinges on the magistrate's initial accusation.
The accusation that Tang Er murdered the monk's servant for the bag. But there is no murdered servant.
Exactly. Jigong presented this detailed list and basically filed a completely false police report to trigger this entire chain of events.
Which makes me struggle with his hero narrative a bit. I mean, he essentially commits perjury. He uses the state's threat of brutal torture to coerce a confession based on a total lie.
He absolutely does.
Doesn't that make his methods dangerously similar to the manipulative tactics Li Wenfeng used? He's also weaponizing the system's blind spots.
And that tension is exactly what elevates this text from just a simple, morality tale to a really profound philosophical critique of the legal system.
How so?
The narrative is arguing that a rigidly codified legal system, one that's blinded by strict rules and status, is inherently incapable of protecting vulnerable people from sophisticated predators.
Because Li Wenfeng used the law perfectly.
Exactly. The law itself was broken. So Ji Gong's actions suggest that when the systemic architecture is structurally corrupt, following the rules just guarantees an unjust outcome.
So true justice sometimes requires a divine disruptor to come in and demolish the procedural rules to get to the truth.
Precisely. And the magistrate actually faces this exact dilemma right there in the courtroom. He realizes the case is solved, but the catalyst was a lie.
He has this internal monologue where he's like, okay, I'll just quickly scold the monk, give him a token punishment, and kick him out to preserve the court's dignity. He wants to save face for the institution.
And Jigong shatters that illusion instantly. He literally voices the magistrate's internal thoughts out loud.
Which is so unnerving. He's showing off this divine omniscience.
And then he just mocks the whole concept of the court's dignity. Before the guards can even touch him for his punishment, he starts screaming in fake agony.
He was like, oh, I'm being beaten. Did you pad the floor? He turns the whole terrifying apparatus of state violence into a complete farce.
But he's doing it very specifically to manage the timeline.
Right. Because right at the apex of this absurdity, a man named Zhao Fu bursts into the courtroom.
And he claims to be the monk's delayed servant. And what is he carrying?
A bundle. The magistrate opens it, and we are presented with an atomic-level duplicate of Tang Er's stolen property.
The floral silk, the white cloth, the red string.
And precisely 37 fragmented pieces of silver. It's identical.
And the arrival of this duplicate bundle is the moment the story transcends human jurisprudence. The magistrate realizes he isn't dealing with a clever beggar.
No, he's dealing with Jigong, this manifestation of divine intervention. Jigong used his foresight to perfectly replicate the stolen inventory.
He intentionally separated from his servant so he would arrive at court alone.
He spoon-fed the magistrate the exact paradox needed to trigger the interrogation of Tang Er. He reverse-engineered the entire legal procedure.
He knew the magistrate would look for a differentiator. He knew the 37 pieces of silver would expose the servant, and he knew the threat of a murder charge would break him.
It's unbelievable. And the magistrate recognizes this massive gap between his own bureaucratic authority and Jigong's divine orchestration.
So he just abandons his desk and bows in absolute submission to the monk.
And the story wraps up with Jigong just grabbing both bundles, casually curing the widow's mother-in-law of blindness with magic medicine.
Which is a pretty overt metaphor for curing the societal blindness of the court, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
And then he just retreats to discuss literature for 3 months before the next disaster calls him away.